This is a scary story from Detroit, Michigan. Joseph Scott Morgan was a 33-year-old African-American man who worked as a delivery driver for a heating oil company in Detroit, Michigan. He lived in a small two-bedroom house at 16721 St. Aubin Street with his wife, Patricia, who was 30 years old, and their 4 children. The couple also had another child on the way. Joseph earned around $18,000 per year, which wasn't a lot, but enough to get by. Their home might have been small, but it was filled with love. One day, Joseph found out that his neighbor, 44-year-old Michael Brewer, had died suddenly of a heart attack. Michael was a strange man who kept to himself. No one really knew him well, but those who did said he was a recluse who hadn't left his home in years. People reported seeing him through his front window doing strange things like sitting in a chair all day and staring into space. A few days after Michael's funeral, Joseph noticed that someone had broken into his neighbor's house and stolen just about everything. It looked like an animal had dragged the place apart. All of the windows were smashed and every room was torn apart. It seemed like whoever had robbed the house had not done so very carefully, but there was no sign of forced entry. And when the police arrived, they told Joseph that the house wasn't actually robbed. There was no sign of any intruders. How could this be? Then the police found something horrifying. They found Michael Brewer lying face down on the floor. His body had been covered up with some clothing. The police hadn't seen the body when they first arrived, because the killer had covered it up. This was odd, because people had been going to Michael's house every day since the funeral to check on things and even remove some of his belongings. If the murder had happened recently, why hadn't they found the body sooner? The police asked if anyone knew of any enemies that Michael might have had, but nobody did. They had no idea who would want him dead. The last person confirmed to have seen Michael alive was a home health care worker named Catherine. She had been hired to take care of Michael during his final days. She visited him on April, the day before his funeral, but never saw him again. When she heard about the murder, she went to the police, shaken but unharmed. She claimed she had seen Michael on the day he died, and then left him to go to her next appointment. When she returned, he was dead. She tried to call 911, but then panicked and left without notifying the authorities. She didn't tell them about the incident until 3 days later. But this still didn't make sense. Why would Michael's body have gone unnoticed for days? And how did the killer manage to break into his home without forcing any of the doors or windows? Then someone came forward with an answer. They claimed to have seen Joseph Morgan entering and exiting Michael's house several times throughout the week following the funeral. What could Joseph have been doing in his neighbor's house? Had he killed him? That same day, Joseph was questioned by the police. He denied killing Michael and said he only entered his neighbor's house to look around because no one else had keys. He said he wanted to check up on Michael's cat, but admitted he had stolen some of Michael's property. But when the police searched his home, they didn't find any stolen goods, and they didn't find any evidence that he had killed his neighbor. So they let him go. It's not clear what led the police to question Joseph Morgan. Maybe they thought a robbery gone wrong was the most likely explanation for the murder, and so they assumed that Joseph had done it. Or maybe someone pointed them towards him because they suspected he was involved. Either way, the police should have taken Joseph's alibi more seriously. He was able to provide solid proof that he was at work when Michael was killed. His boss confirmed this, and so did several of his co-workers. Also, if Joseph was really a murderer, he wouldn't have stolen anything from the house. Instead, he would have simply looted it completely, but he had only taken a few things. This meant that he was most likely just an opportunistic thief. Whoever killed Michael must have known that he was alone in the house and took advantage of the situation. So the investigation started over. The police began going through Michael's past, looking for possible enemies. Eventually, they found one. A woman named Kim testified that she had been in a relationship with Michael, but he had been abusive towards her and had threatened her life on numerous occasions. At one point, Michael had even taken her to his house and shackled her to the floor. He told her he was going to kill her, but eventually let her go. Kim had been afraid of Michael for a long time. She had even filed a police report against him for assault. But when the police interviewed him about it, he told them that Kim was insane and had attacked him without provocation. But if Kim's testimony was true, then Michael had enemies. So the police checked to see if she had left town or disappeared after his death. They wanted to ask her a few more questions, but they couldn't find her anywhere. She had vanished, so they had no choice but to continue the investigation without her. As time passed, the case grew colder and colder. The detectives in charge of the case were stumped. They had no suspects and no leads. As far as they knew, Michael didn't have any enemies. And if he did, they had no motive for murder. Then, out of nowhere, a new lead popped up. The police received a phone call from a woman who wished to remain anonymous. She told them that she had information about Michael's murder. She said that she had been in a relationship with a man named Joseph Scott Morgan. She had broken up with him a while back, but they had remained friends. On the day Michael Brewer was killed, Joseph had come to her house crying. He had confessed to her that he had accidentally killed someone while breaking into their home. He told her that he had planned to steal the victim's prescription medication and had entered his home through an unlocked basement door. He said that he didn't know the man was home, but when he screamed at him to leave, the man attacked him. During the struggle, Joseph accidentally hit him in the head and killed him. He then tried to resuscitate him, but it was too late. He called 911, but when the operator asked him where he was, he hung up the phone and panicked. In the end, he decided to cover up the body and steal some of his belongings. At first, the woman didn't think much of it. She figured that the police already knew this and were probably investigating him. But when she heard nothing about the incident in the news, she became concerned and called them. When the police heard this, they immediately went to Joseph's house. He was arrested and taken in for questioning. He told the police that the woman was lying and that he had nothing to do with Michael's murder. But when the police brought him back to the house on St. Aubin Street, he broke down and confessed to the crime. He explained that he had been struggling financially and desperately needed money for food and medicine for his sick baby. That's when he learned that his neighbor had passed away, and his house was full of valuables. So he decided to rob it. He crept into Michael's basement through an open window and stole some items. That's when he heard footsteps, and he hid behind a washing machine. It was Michael. The two struggled over the stolen items, and Joseph accidentally struck Michael in the head, killing him. With Joseph's confession, the case was closed. It turned out that his own wife had actually stolen Michael's medication and given it to him. She had hoped that selling it on the street would bring in some much-needed cash. But when Michael confronted her, she ran to Joseph for help. When the two of them confronted Michael together, Joseph lost his temper and killed him. After confessing, he was charged with second-degree murder and sentenced to 10 to 25 years in prison. His wife, Patricia, pleaded guilty to first-degree retail theft and was sentenced to 18 months in jail. This case shows how desperate times can lead to drastic measures. Joseph made a horrible mistake and ended up taking a life, but he should not have been convicted of murder. He acted in self-defense and should have been acquitted of all charges. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more crime stories. Thanks for watching.